So my name is Charles Nichols, and I am now starting my second company in Kenya. My first company I started in 2012, doing solar agri-asset financing to farmers in rural Kenya. I'm currently a founder in residence at Celo, and Celo is a mobile-first blockchain. It's kind of similar to M-Pesa in that you can exchange value with a simple phone number. You use a mobile application. Where it's different from M-Pesa is that it's decentralized. So you have a series of folks who are validating transactions called validators, but it's not just one cohesive organization. So it's really owned by the community. And to me, when I look at centralized platforms around the world, I look at Facebook, Google, Instagram, etc. They're all owned by a small group of individuals who are able to kind of exert their decisions on everyone who uses that platform, right? And what's really exciting to me with technologies like Celo and other Web3 technologies is that you can enable your users to become the owners of the platform as well. And practically, kind of what that looks like is you can build applications on blockchains like Celo or other blockchains as well. And instead of building an application in kind of the traditional way, where you would have a centralized server with a database, you can store pieces of your blockchain application. We call them dApps for decentralized application. You can store pieces of those dApps on the blockchain. So that means you can do stuff like authenticating your user without requiring a username or password. They just link their crypto wallet up to the application, and they're able to get access to the services that you're providing. It also means that you can issue tokens to your users. So you can enable the folks who are using your application every day to be able to own a small piece of that application. And if they're an early adopter, they come in early. Over time, that stake that they have, those tokens, could become very valuable. So it creates this really awesome incentive to get early adopters, technology enthusiasts involved very early in Web3 to then be able to have ownership of applications as they scale and grow.
Okay, great. You mentioned that you are part of the Celo Founders Program.
Yeah.
Before we jump into the technicalities, I think it's good you talk about your experience, for how long have you been there,
Yep.
And what sort of advantages or support that you have to get where you are today.
Totally. So my previous startup I worked at for about 8 years, so almost a decade, right? The majority of my adult life I was working for this one company. And when I stepped back from SunCulture, I kind of had this opportunity to reevaluate what direction I wanted to go in next. I knew that I wanted to build for Kenya. I knew that I wanted to be a founder because I think when you're once a founder, you're always a founder, right? And you can never really do anything else. You're unemployable, right? But I didn't know exactly what direction I wanted to go. I had a lot of different ideas. I'd kind of worked in the fintech space. I'd done some stuff around e-commerce, but I didn't know exactly which direction I wanted to go. And I came across Celo from Daniel, who's the ecosystem lead here in Kenya. And he reached out to me on LinkedIn and said that Celo was looking for founders who were experienced in market, had built businesses in East Africa before, and wanted to support those founders to come and build something new on Celo. So I applied, ended up going back and forth with James, who runs the program, kind of seshing out some of the ideas that I had around digital commerce, around enabling businesses to accept payments based on crypto, being able to incentivize adoption of new digital commerce platforms. And it just seemed like there was a lot of alignment between what Celo was trying to accomplish and what I was really excited about. And then the Celo Founder in Residence program has been great because they came in and provided the resources for us to kind of build our MVP. So we didn't have to immediately go to market and go and fundraise. We were able to access funding from Celo as well as access to their network. So we could, learn from what other people were doing. We could talk to some of the other teams. And as part of the Celo Founder in Residence, there's a bunch of other entrepreneurs in different parts of the world who are building cool stuff, and I get the opportunity to kind of bounce ideas off of people. It's kind of like having a founding team where you have people who are invested in your success, but you're also independent and you're building your own thing. So I think the resource and the community has been really valuable as this kind of transition point for me as I was shifting from one industry to a new industry. I mean, the cool thing about Web3 is that you don't have to dive 100% into putting everything on crypto from day one, right? On a blockchain from day one. You can take pieces of Web2 applications that have already demonstrated value, and you can integrate those pieces with the blockchain. So you could do that for KYC, for identity. You could do that for payments. You could do it for savings, for credit and loan products. So we're seeing a lot of different applications in all those spaces. And I think something that I'm really excited to see is the level of enthusiasm in Kenya, young Kenyan developers who are excited to get into Web3. And I think it's a natural jump, especially for Kenyan developers, because in Kenya uniquely, everyone is familiar with building applications that are wallet native, right? Because everyone in Kenya has an M-Pesa wallet. So when you're thinking about Web3 and how it's software that's connected to a digital wallet, it just makes a lot of sense if you're used to building around digital wallets already. So I think that the next kind of cohort of young Kenyan developers are going to contribute not just to what we're seeing today in Web3 in Kenya, but globally. And I think it's a really exciting space that if you are a young dev, to begin to explore and learn, what skills you have already, React and database structures will translate into Web3, and then where you need to learn new skills to be able to build dApps on blockchains like Celo or other blockchains. I think often when you're building for Sub-Saharan Africa, you're localizing to specific markets. Maybe you're building for Kenya, you're building for Nigeria. And I think if we're going to really tap into the potential of fintech and Web3 specifically, we need to think about building for the entire continent, right? And of course, there's always going to be unique market characteristics. You're going to need to localize. But one of the biggest blockers, in my opinion, to being able to build a Pan-African fintech is the different payment rails. So every country has, a unique regime for integrating with the banking system. Like Nigeria, there's a lot more access to bank transfers and bank cards. South Africa has kind of an integrated system that's divided over several banks. Kenya is mobile money first. And if you want to have a company that's being able to address the opportunity in all of three of those markets, you have to have bespoke integrations for all of those financial rails. When you look at a system like Celo and the stablecoins that are built on top of Celo, once you're in that stablecoin ecosystem, you can build globally, right? Any business can accept CUSD in a permissionless way and can swap that CUSD into different types of stablecoins on and off ramp into the fiat system. And I think that the universality of a stablecoin system kind of enables companies that may traditionally have only built for one market to find themselves not only in other African markets, but in Latin America and Southeast Asia. And I think that's really, really exciting for homegrown Kenyan businesses to be able to look at that opportunity. I think that you have to engage regulators in a thoughtful manner, right? I think you need to realize that this is something that's in everybody's best interest, right? To reduce friction for commerce means that there's going to be more successful small businesses. We're going to be hiring more people who are then going to be contributing to the economy, increasing the tax base, et cetera. And I think from my limited experience, this isn't something I have a lot of experience in, there's a lot of interest in engaging with some of these emerging technologies from the regulator side. So I think that we as the industry need to be being mindful of that and holding the door open and having these conversations where possible, knowing that it's probably going to take several years before the regulatory regime will catch up, and there's definitely going to be points where there'll be friction and maybe disagreements on kind of how things are framed. But I'm a founder, I'm an optimist, and I believe that it's a natural progression to make these technologies more abundant. And I think that the regulators recognize that and are kind of beginning to introduce these concepts in important ways. And I think that will lead to broad-based acceptance over the next couple of years. Within the Founder in Residence program, I'm working on a specific business. The business is still in stealth stage, so we're still kind of working on it on the side. We're building our MVP right now with support from Celo. But essentially what I can say is that we're going to be using the blockchain to make digital commerce more rewarding. So, folks are familiar with loyalty programs like Safaricom's Bonga Points. We're working hard to bring that solution into Web3 and be able to deploy it in a way that makes sense for Duka Mtani. So the local shops, walking around, your daily shopping, your big purchases, etc. We'll be able to make that a little bit more exciting and make that a little bit more rewarding. And we hope to have more to share on that pretty soon. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I am incredibly enthusiastic about the Kenyan developer community and what that means for Web3, bringing Kenyan devs into the kind of global ecosystem for talent. The industry needs a ton of talent. This is the time to get involved. I'm going to probably drop a couple links below this video to show kind of how you can get started if you're a developer and you're starting out in Web3. Even if you're not super technical, if you're interested in the space, in the crypto space, kind of more generally, take some time, go through some of these materials, watch some videos, and you never know, you might find yourself building something really cool.